I have another anniversary review for you. This is from one of the German thrash bands. The name of the album is Extreme Aggression, and the band is Kreator. The album was released on June 19th, 1989. It is celebrating 35 years. It was released on the Noise label in Europe and Epic in the US. I will be going into a little history with the band leading up to this album. Then I will talk about the songs, lyrics, and other stuff. This is an important album in their discography because after this the band started to change their sound. You might even say that this was the last of their old school thrash sound, which would not come back until many years later. When this album came out, they had already become well known in the States because they toured with the crossover thrash band D.R.I. This album also had a song with a music video that was played often during Headbangers Ball on MTV. I'll talk more about that later. There was also a song that was used in an early 1990s radio promo. It was also their first album released in the US on the Epic label. First, some history. A few years before the release of this album, the band started to gain some traction in the US. They released their album Terrible Uncertainty in 1987. This is regarded as one of the most aggressive and technical albums. It was ahead of its time. Then they released an EP called Out of the Dark, Into the Light in 1988. They started to headline their own tours, as well as play big arena shows with bigger bands such as Megadeth. They were now ready to release their fourth album, which is the subject matter of this video. They continued to expand their popularity outside of Germany. After this album, they would release Coma of Souls, which is a great album, even if they slowed it down a little. Then the 90s hit and they completely changed. But that's another topic for another video. Back to the album Extreme Aggression. Let's first talk about the cover art. The original cover art showed a man standing in front of a bathroom mirror, looking at a reflection of his face, which is falling off. You can see the Kreator demon coming out underneath. They had to replace the album cover with the one you see here, which looks kind of tame for this type of band. I mean, I don't see why the original cover had to be changed. There was a scene in the movie Poltergeist that had a similar idea, and that was much more graphic, and that was a PG movie. Now let's talk about the recording and production. They first started to record the album in Germany, but then they got rid of those tapes. Vocalist Mile Petrosa was not happy with the band's guitarist Jurg Trzebiatowski. I'm probably butchering that. So the band decided to move to Los Angeles, and they decided to get a new guitarist, someone who also played with Sodom, who was Frank Blackfire Gottsick. I recently did a video on Sodom's album Agent Orange, which also had this guitar player. The album was recorded from January to February in 1989 at the Music Grinder Studio in Hollywood, California, with additional recording at EQ Sound and Cherokee Studios. Tritze was credited as guitarist on Extreme Aggression, but his contributions were not included on the album, and he left the band after its release. Blackfire left Sodom and joined Kreator, playing the Extreme Aggression tour to support the album. Now let's get into the album. The album has 9 songs. It's 37 minutes long. Let me first start with some trivia. The first item of trivia is the song Betrayer. This was a song that was played often on MTV's Headbangers Ball, so that helped them reach a far wider audience. The music video was partly shot at the Acropolis in Athens. It's black and white video and shows the band playing the song live, along with other haunting images. I'll talk more about the song later. The other item of trivia is the song Love Us or Hate Us. The beginning of this song was used in an early 1990s promo, and it was by the Los Angeles radio station KNAC. Now let's go track by track. Extreme Aggression is the opening track. This one starts with some mid-paced thrash metal, but then it gets very extreme. The song is filled with some awesome guitar riffs and tempo changes. The lyrics are about a person who is very aggressive and loves to commit acts of violence. I thought it was a great song to open the album because it has everything. It has the intense drum beats, the harsh vocals, the more melodic mid-paced guitar riffs, and some slower moments that are there to keep everything interesting. No Reason to Exist is the second track, and this one has a straightforward thrash metal sound. Lyrics talk about the state of the world and how you are controlled by society. So therefore, you don't have any reason to exist because you don't have any free will. Song has some awesome guitar riffs and some of that galloping guitar playing. I really like the guitar tone in this song. They use a lot of palm muting in the guitar riffs to create that signature thrash sound. The guitar solo is also awesome. I think it's another really great song. Love Us or Hate Us is the next song, and I think I like this one because it has a really awesome mosh part. I think that's something important in thrash. Songs about how they are a band that's going to play the way they want and they won't change for anyone else. That was my interpretation of the lyrics. But this one is really good. It's pure thrash. The album doesn't have any weak songs. Stream of Consciousness is the next song and the last song on side A if you have this on vinyl or cassette. The song is basically about how people are blind to what is around them and they keep living day by day. This is another song with some cool guitar riffs. Let me also mention that the lead guitar in this album is awesome. It's a very heavy album, but all the songs are well written. Some Pain Will Last is the first song on side B. This one was different because it had a slower and more atmospheric intro that built up into the main guitar riff, which was a chromatic guitar riff. The first part of the song was slow, but there was a lot of melody. The song is basically how we live in a world of pain and deceit, corruption and greed. That's actually a line from the song. I was surprised that they kept the pace fairly slow in the first half of the song compared to the other songs on the album, but it was still a great song and also very dark and heavy. They pick up the pace in the second half of the song. There's some really cool gallops toward the end of the song. It was another good one on an album that, like I said, has no bad songs. Betrayer is next. This was the one I mentioned before that was played on the Headbangers Ball. It was one of the heaviest things on that show back then. I don't remember them playing death metal or anything like that. I remember they played the heavier stuff towards the end of the show. I used to record the show on a VHS tape just in case I fell asleep. It's an awesome song because it's both heavy and melodic and accessible enough for the late night MTV audience. It's still one of my favorite songs from the album. Don't Trust is the next song. This one is about how you cannot trust or believe anyone or anything. This is another heavy thrash metal song. It has a lot of changes in the rhythm. This was very aggressive and the song has a lot of energy. The album is filled with great songs. When you listen, they seem to go by very quickly. Bringer of Torture is a short song. It's only 2 minutes and 15 seconds. It's very heavy, it's fast, it's in your face. The lyrics are very dark. I'm not going to talk about the topic, but it deals with an issue you're not really supposed to talk about on YouTube. Fatal Energy is the last song, and it talks a lot about the things that they were mentioning throughout many of the other songs. How the world is a horrible place, lots of violence, a lot of greed, you can't trust anybody. That's kind of the gist of what I got from reading the lyrics. As for the song, it starts off pretty slow, has some sustained power chords, some cool lead guitar playing. It's one of the cool rhythm section. Has some of that mid-paced thrash metal, and they were not trying to go crazy with the fast rhythms. They're just keeping a steady pace, and I think that works very well on the songs on this album. There's a part towards the end of the song where it even sounds more like that new wave of British heavy metal. I heard some Iron Maiden influence in some of the guitar riffs. I thought it was pretty cool. Now for my final thoughts. It's one of those albums that I always go back to. Now, I will admit there are a few albums from this band that I haven't listened to yet, but I have heard this one multiple times because it's just one of my favorites. I think it's one of their pure thrash albums. They're not trying to be too extreme, or they're not trying to be too accessible or commercial. I think on the next album, Coma of Souls, they got a little bit more accessible, and then in the 90s they changed completely. But I think it's a good starting point if you're new to the band because it's just solid thrash, and there's nothing else to say about it. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of this album? Is it your favorite? Where would you rank it? Let me know. Check out my recent video I did of Agent Orange by the band Sodom. And I'm sticking that there because I mentioned that this album had the same guitarist who joined the band. So that is all. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.